On September 23rd, 1965, the Beach Boys. They stepped into Western Records in Hollywood and shut the door behind them. It wasn't a grand hall, just a modest working studio room where microphones hung low and a tape machine waited. Capitol Records wanted an album quickly for the Christmas season. Brian Wilson was already deep into the ambitious work that would become Pet Sounds. Instead of layering orchestration that day, they just started fooling around. Guitars were passed from hand to hand. A tambourine rattled. Someone tapped bongos. They nearly slipped into Ba Ba Black Sheep before catching themselves, pulling it back, and you know what? The tape kept running the whole time. And out of that room came one of the most recognizable chants in American music. Ba 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 Barbara Ann. The song began in Queens, New York in 1958. Fred Fassard wrote it for his younger sister, Barbara Ann Fassard. His brother Chuck sang with a neighborhood doo-wop group called The Regents. They recorded it and pressed it onto a 7-inch vinyl single, spinning around 45 revolutions per minute. 7 inches, 17.8 centimeters, a lightweight disc you could hold in one hand. In 1968, G Records released it nationally, and it climbed to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. No orchestration, just elaborate studio tracks, tight harmonies, and repetition that stuck. That's the first layer. Street corner music. Young voices stacking, well, because they could. By late summer 1965, the industry changed. The Beatles were reshaping pop culture. Multi-track recording was expanding rapidly. Brian Wilson was pushing towards complex arrangements, session players, and very precise studio construction. But Capitol, they wanted product. Beach Boys' Party became their 10th studio album and their third that year. Recording took place over several days in August and September. The party sound heard on the album was largely assembled after the fact. Songs were tracked individually. Laughter and chatter, they were overdubbed later to create the illusion of a gathering. It sounded casual. It was built that way. When they began Barbara Ann, Dean Torrance of Jan and Dean just happened to be there and joined on lead vocals. Contract rules kept him uncredited, but at the end of the track, Carl Wilson shouts, "Thanks, Dean," and that moment stuck around. They left in the laughter. They left in the cracked notes. The final verse drifts slightly off course. Brian Wilson later said that they were just fooling around. And that phrase, there's a key there, because fooling around after years of harmony discipline still meant control underneath all that looseness. Radio stations began spinning the album cut. Listener demand built quickly, and Capitol released a single December 20th, 1965, backed with Girl Don't Tell Me. It rose to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1966. It reached number 1 on Cashbox in Record World. Only the Beatles, with We Can Work It Out, and Petulia Clark with My Love, kept it for the top Billboard position. In the United Kingdom, it reached number 3, their highest British placement at the time, and it topped the charts in parts of Europe and reached number 4 in Italy. Beach Boys' Party climbed to number 6 in the United States and number 3 in the UK. In its initial commercial run, it moved faster than Pet Sounds, even though Pet Sounds would later become the more celebrated album. And that contrast right there is the center of the story. One of the band's biggest commercial successes came from a relaxed session built around acoustic guitars and group vocals. And while Brian Wilson was constructing one of the decade's most ambitious studio records, they carried on. In 1965, editing meant cutting physical tape with a blade and splicing it by hand. Every correction carried risk. Leaving in laughter and small imperfections, it wasn't just part of the creative freedom, it was efficient under deadline pressure. You can hear Brian shout, "Hey, it's Hal and his famous ashtrays," referring to session drummer Hal Blaine and his well-known ashtray percussion trick from all his other recordings. Someone yells, "Stretch it, Carl," during the guitar solo. Those were offhand moments, and they became permanent. In the years that followed, stripped-down performances would continue to draw audiences. Acoustic sets, live sessions, The appetite for something human, it didn't disappear as studios became more sophisticated and wanted things polished. Technology grows more advanced, production budgets expand, sound gets cleaner, but people still respond to voices in a room. Fred Fassett wrote a melody for his sister in 1958. A local vocal group sang it into a modest microphone. And 7 years later, a California band under commercial pressure picked it up while trying to redefine their sound. These are Interesting Things with JC.